All right, so we have this interface popping up now, I think. All right, so now what we want to do is when we first launch this interface, we want to pass it our binary tree, right? So let's start with that. So if I'm in my airport list screen, airport list activity, when I say on Maraca click here, the idea is I've waited and had my airport tree finish building. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this tree global to the class. All right, so there's my airport tree. So I just made it a global variable at the top of airport list activity, but it actually gets filled here inside of on data change on my snapshot. Okay, so that's going to fill up with all my airports. All right, so now when I say on Maraca click and I have my intent, before I start this activity, I want to pass my tree to that activity. All right, so I want to say I dot put extra. And we have several versions of put extra. So I'm going to call this guy, we're going to put a tree is going to be the name of this guy. And then it wants me to pass it a serialized, in fact, actually there might be a put. This one right here. Nope. This one? Nope. This one? Yeah. So this one takes in a serializable, something that is serializable. We've done that before with Firebase, right? Now, when we did serializable with Firebase, what was the point of that? Why did we make our class serializable? What was the whole point of making it serializable other than having a scary sounding name or something? Okay, pass an object to who? Go back to Firebase, not what we're doing here. The reason's the same.
Oh, okay, so when objects come from Firebase, they come as JSON objects, so they need to be serialized and deserialized.
Mm-hmm. So we ultimately had to convert local objects into their JSON equivalent. So that means they're serializable. We send it over the network. Firebase receives it, stores it in JSON. Then when we query that, we bring it back as JSON. We retrieve it inside of our code here. So this is where we get the value. And we convert it, we deserialize it, or marshal it back into an object format. Make sense? So we're doing the same thing in this case. Instead of sending it over the internet to Firebase, what we're doing is that we're throwing it into like the trunk of the car. We're putting it into our extras for our intent. So we're going to put extra a tree. All right, now this guy needs to be serializable. So what I'm going to make serializable here, I'm going to go to airport tree. And I'm just going to give myself a getter here for root. Because root is a tree, correct? And then a trees are collections of other a trees. So it's a tree of trees. Where our airport tree is kind of just like a bag that's holding the structure of it. So really I have a single root a tree with a bunch of other a trees hanging off of it. So I really want to pass around here is a tree. And a tree is what I'm going to show on an individual screen of my application. So I'll just give myself, I can make this public if I wanted to, but I'm just going to give myself a quick getter for my root. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and just finish writing the code over here to connect it, but it's not going to be legal yet. So I'm going to add to this guy this dot a tree, which is my airport tree, dot get root. That's my actual instance of a tree. All right, now I highlight over this. Notice that right now it, let's see. Oh, that's fine. So right now it's not happy because it expects me to pass something that's serializable as that second parameter. So what kind of object does this .atree.get root boil down to?
A tree.
An A tree object. This guy right, where is he? This guy. This guy right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make him implements. See, look, there's a problem with L. Serializable. I'll make these guys public. Look. All right, so I gave them all public fields so we can pass it. Now I want to go back to airport list activity. Notice this guy's happy again because now he is a serializable. Make sense? All right, so now in my, what do I call it, airport tree view activity, this guy, I want to go ahead and grab a couple of things just so I don't forget. I'll give him a private A tree. We'll call it the tree. And then inside of here, we'll go ahead and say this dot the tree is equal to this dot get intent dot get serializable extra, and I call this guy A tree. I believe that's how I named it, right? Yeah, A tree with a capital T. And I'll go ahead and store that as a, well, I know it happens to be an A tree. It's coming out as a serializable, but A tree is serializable. We wrote it right here. This guy's serializable. Okay? So now, when I click this thing, I went ahead and added the root as A tree, a serializable object. And then I go ahead and launch that activity. When I get into that activity right here, I go ahead and grab the tree associated with this, the guy that's the tree that this guy's supposed to show. Make sense? All right. Now what I'm going to do is I need to have access to my buttons. I need to have access to my text view for my airport code, and then my buttons so I can turn them on or off depending on whether there's a left or right child, that kind of stuff. All right. So we have two buttons. We have private button, left button, right button. Then we have a private text view. We'll call this guy airport code TV. And we'll go ahead and hook those guys up. So we'll say this dot left button is equal to this dot find view by ID r dot ID dot left button. This dot right button is equal to this dot find view by ID r dot ID dot right button. This dot airport code TV is equal to this dot find view by ID r dot ID dot airport code TV. All right, so now I have those pieces right there. I have my tree. The very first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and be able to get the payload from my tree. So let's go into a tree here, and do I have access to that? My payload is a airport, or is an airport, and it already is public, so I don't need a getter. Why did I make it public?
It's part of serializable.
Yes, to make it serializable. Okay. I had to make it public so that it could be serializable. Okie dokie. Then I will, where am I? Right there. So I'll go ahead and say this dot, what do I call it? Airport code TV dot set text, and I'm going to set the text to this dot the tree dot payload dot airport code. And I'll put the airport code in there.
you go back to that where you put the intent serializable?
Where I put the in.
Where you add the serialized object to the intent.
Oh, Maraca.
Maraca, yeah, thanks. Oh, interesting. So you don't have to tell it serialize this; it just does because it's a serialized.
It expects it to be serializable. Watch this.
Okay.
If I say I dot put extra, notice there's a whole bunch of put extra methods. They all take a string as the first thing. That's the name of the variable. And then the second thing is the kind of value. Okay, what's it called when you have more than one method with the same name but a different number and or type of parameter? Polymorphism. So this is an example of polymorphism. And all the way down here, we have one here that takes a serializable. So I have to pass it something that is a serializable.
And so when you extend your class and say, okay, I'm implementing this interface.
It's not extending. Yeah, it's implementing the interface. Yep. So we're saying a tree implements serializable, which says that we need to make all our fields public.
So quick detour question. So I did generics and I had to extend the angle bracket T, the type.
Yep.
So what's the difference between extending and implementing? So I extended the type with comparable, and by extending it with comparable, I said that the object that comes in will always have compare to. Like I will only accept objects that have.
Well, actually, that's not the greatest example because the difference between extending and implementing, you extend another class to get the base attributes of that class that you can then further differentiate yourself from.
So I'm saying, okay.
You implement an interface to be policed about having to implement things in there. So, for instance, you said you extended.
That's the syntax.
You extended comparable.
I didn't extend comparable. So generic.
Comparable is an interface. So what did you extend?
I extended the angle bracket T generic parameter.
Okay, so it's a special syntax in Java where you extended the base generics class that says I know how to be generic.
Yeah.
And then did you also have to implement comparable? Or that, okay, so that means that the base class, the generics thing that you extended, that guy must implement comparable.
Yeah, no. So in the classes that I want to pass into my airport class, I had to implement comparable in there, and that way, it had compared to it. So does that make sense? So I wanted my binary tree to be generic, but I need to have the compare to.
Right, but by saying something implements comparable means that he will have a compare to method.
Correct.
Okay. Now, but let me show you something here. So all I'm going to do here with a tree, I'm going to still leave everything public. So by removing implement serializable, I'm actually not changing my implementation at all. I've fulfilled the serializable rules. I'm just saying don't police me. Okay? Haven't changed anything else.
Now I see the red on.
Yep. So now I come back here. This guy's no longer happy. Why? Because this is an instance of a tree. He was always an instance of a tree. But when he implements serializable, he is a serializable.
Okay.
He counts as a serializable.
And
You needed something that was comparable. That's why you had to implement comparable inside your thing, because that way we can trust. When we say this guy is a serializable, we're saying you can trust that he has public fields.
One last question. So part of the comparable interface is to go ahead and add the compare to method into your class, like that's part of the contract.
Yeah.
Serializable, is it just like the JVM sees it and says, oh, I know how to serialize you? You don't have to implement a method for me?
Yeah, so comparable, I assume it's just compared to, but you can just look it up. So here's the, you can have a single method. Have to implement a method called compare to.
Right. That's what I'm saying. My question is, I'm saying it poorly. My question is this, though. So when you implement serializable, and you say, okay, now this is a serializable object, there's no, for example.
Yeah, there's not a method.
So that's what I'm saying. When you implement comparable, you're required to have compare to.
Yeah, I'll show you. Serializable just has the rules of, I don't want to be here. Just has the rules of public. I'm just going to keep randomly clicking on stuff. Nobody move.
Okay, no method.
Yeah, so there's no method you have to deal with. But notice it's talking about access modifiers and things like this. So somewhere in here, it's going to tell you have to make everything public.
So the compiler and the virtual machine just know what to do with it.
Right, because serializable is something built into the language.
Yeah, so it's just part of the spec of the language.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I know what to do.
Correct.
Okay.
But you can create your own interface. You can make interfaces called, I don't know, torchable. Most interfaces end in an ABL, able.
Okay, yeah. It makes
Yeah.
it comparable to serial.
Yeah, that's just a naming. That's a naming convention. It doesn't have to be with an able, but that usually is the telltale sign it's an interface. So you could write your own public interface called torchable, and you can decide that all torchable things have the ability, must have a function called set on fire or something like that. You could, butaneable. It's a sub interface of it's the butaneable interface. It's like, why does the butaneable interface require a function called consume? All right. Yeah, so interfaces are a police mechanism that contractually obligates you to interface to implement whatever the interface says. Where extending says I'm following the inheritance model, and I get everything that came with the guy above me, and if I want to change any of it or override any of it, I can, but nobody's going to force me to.
Is there something in there about like making the variables public as well?
You switched all yours to public. Like down here? Let's see. Yeah, during deserialization, the fields of non-serializable classes will be initialized using public or protected. No argument constructor must be accessible to the subclass. So we talked about all those things when we were talking about Firebase. So it basically says this is how deserialization works. So when you say you are serializable, this is how they will attempt to deserialize you later on. So make sure you're compatible with that. So making it public actually has more to do with the deserialization step than the serialization step. It has to be able to create a empty object and then serialize it. And then set the public fields back to the values. All right, so we'll go ahead and make this guy serializable again. All right, so he's back in business. This guy's now back in business. All right, so now we're in our airport tree view activity. We'll go ahead and set our airport code. Let's actually just stop right there. We'll go ahead and run this. We should see that very first screen should show us an airport code now, whatever was the top guy in our tree. I have no idea what the top root value is, but it's going to be some airport code or an airport code lookalike thingy. What'd you do? Oh, I bet. Check it real quick. I am starting that guy, aren't I? Yeah, I do start the activity, but I bet serializable issue. What doesn't matter. I think this is the problem. I need to give myself a no argument constructor here for this guy. That way he can build it and
Make an empty object to wish list.
set the public fields. Yep. But why?
So it's saying that it's too much data and it's like to serialize.
Oh, because it's the whole tree hanging off of it.
So is it following all the pointers?
Well, I mean, it is a whole bunch of pointers after it.
Yeah.
So actually, here's what we need to do.
Single.
No. This is going to work.
I just learned like the basic moves, and I'm just going to
Let me just make those guys private for a second. Make sure that fixes it. Sort of will have to do a singleton, but not a stupid singleton. If this ends up being the fix. Yeah, the problem is it's just too big. Because if I set these back to public, how could just that one key be going bad? Didn't Apple, aren't they fixing these keyboards? I think they're replacing the keyboards on these keyboards, or the keyboards on these computers. Because they said they were too noisy or something. So maybe I got to take this puppy in. All right, so I'm gonna do. Well, just give me a free new keyboard. I don't need a new laptop. This guy's good enough. We've been through a lot together. Let's see. Up here where I build it, I'm just gonna put less stuff in it. Let's just prove that. There. I'll just add one thing to it, and then we'll run it. This will prove that the problem is the data set size. Yeah. So definitely data set size. How do I make that bigger? It really seems dumb. It won't let you serialize that deep. Must be exceeding size of string or something. Well, in any case, this is how you serialize an object and send it over an extra. So it looks like that guy is too large because of the size of our data.
There's one I read about called GSON, Google. Have you heard of that one? That's what people are recommending on Stack Overflow for
Oh no,
serialization.
That's not going to solve the problem here. I mean, this was just using extras to do it. But I mean, we can.
I mean, doesn't it kind of accomplish the same thing though? You're serializing something up and then shooting it over and deserializing it on the other side.
Yeah, but we don't even need to go that far. I mean, this is going to be one line of code
Okay.
we're going to have to do. So we'll just go into core here. And we're just going to have a public static A tree cur tree. Start this guy off at null. We'll come back into our list activity. I'll go ahead and let it fill up the entire tree again. And then down here, rather than putting the extra, we'll say core dot cur tree is equal to this dot a tree. Dot get root. There we go. It no longer needs to be serializable now, but we'll just leave it. It's fine. It's not going to hurt anybody because we're never actually serializing it now. So then inside of this guy, we're no longer getting it from our intent. Now we're saying core dot cur tree. So here's our top level. Both of our buttons currently show, but we don't have them doing anything yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement left and right, depending on whether our current tree has a left and right. So I'm going to write a little function in here. I'll make it private, void, hide buttons if needed, something like that. And we'll ask the question if this dot the tree dot left is equal to null. If we don't have a left subtree, then we'll say this dot left button dot set visibility to invisible. If this dot the tree dot left or dot right is equal to null, this dot right button dot set visibility to invisible. So we'll hide any buttons that are needed. Then we need to write the functions for those two buttons. So public, I got two L's that time. It's just getting warmed up. Public void on left, nope. Button clicked, view V. Okay, now if we were able to click that button, that means there is a left child. So if there is a left child, what will we do? We're going to set core.cur tree equal to this dot the tree dot left. Then intent I is equal to new intent this comma, and then it'll be, let's name this class airport tree view activity dot class. This dot start activity I. So that's on the left button. Right button is we'll set the current tree to right. Like that. And that should be it. Hook up the buttons and we should have a working solution. On click. I made it public, didn't I? Think you're better than me. Public void. Why did I say one? Doesn't matter, it still works. Okay, and this is airport activity airport tree view, right? Airport tree view, this guy. Where's your code? All right, we're gonna close him and reopen him. Where's that guy?
He's up. He's down from did the invalidate cache and restart thing when mine wouldn't work, and it found them after it restarted.
Rebuild it real quick. If I can't get this to show up, then I'm going to have to hard code it.
Scary.
So what's the thing on yours? What did you say you did?
It would be Apple or Android Studio, I guess. No, it'd be file. Sorry, I was forgetting Apple. And then invalidate caches, restart, it's down 10 more. Just say random. One more, right below. Try that one. Invalidate and restart. That haven't been invalidate and restart.
It's still running.
Yeah, too. I don't know. It's like the magic button. Just, whenever Android Studio will work, it's like the first thing I click. I have no idea what it does. I get all my good stuff off of Stack Overflow. It's just what people on Stack Overflow say. So I'm just like, all right, cool. Jordan, what was the guy's name? Colin. Yeah, Colin. That's like kind of Colin. Yeah, Krieger. Colin K.
Yeah.
That's how I broke his Android Studio. Yeah, CK and CG. Shit, CIG. It's kind of fun. Very good too, actually. But we did not utilize them effectively as you guys did. You guys did awesome. I think that's great. So.
What do you want to say about our group, buddy? Well, I'm probably just happy to tell us what you said, right? Yeah. We just had a lot of people with a lot of different ideas. And no one
Worked.
ever wanted to stack it up.
All right. So this thing should work now.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then you're like, I'm going to do this. It's really good. So. Wow, you're really good. If you work for me, you wouldn't even have this mission.
You probably have more.
I don't know.
She provided less decimal places.
It's true. I just went to
So if you didn't have her, you'd have more decimal places.
I just drove my office down to that table right there. That's how I did all day long. Is go to my office, grab something, come back. Everything. I'm afraid that we're probably not going to make a lot of money off that app. It's too bad. Such a great thing.
Yeah, because we had the stuff cached before. I think it takes longer to.
Oh yeah, faster reinstall the app.
Well, no. Get the original list of airports. It's not until this populates does Morocco have anything in it.
It's very awesome. It's like she switches to German
And like Russian.
Like,
What did you do?
it worked for you, John.
I'm still building.
Or the laptop.
My computer's a little bit
A little
cheaper
slower.
because
Yeah.
Let's see if removing that cache stuff also disconnects it from Firebase or something.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No,
Yeah, it does.
what? It's not a help.
everything was so good.
Well, you got your
No.
you got your Google.json in there. That's right. Take no responsibility.
Yeah, this could be fine. I just need to get it to reconnect to it.
Just really shows that Dr. Lemons is really hosed.
Nah, mine's fine. Could be fixed in a second.
Screwed up.
Check my internet
Do
connection.
you not know my slang? Are you that young?
Seth's got his own slang.
No,
I'm
I'm not that young, but
you are.
I don't know how to even know slang from
I'm gonna say, like, hosed.
I'm
It's
25.
just like-
Where do I find idea.log?
Huh?
Where do I find idea.log?
Google it, bruh.
Speaking of slang.
Bruh.
Tomorrow, that
Oh,
was-
I just want my.
Well, now my internet's offline. What'd you do?
gamer slang.
Oh.
Oh, it actually isn't Android Studio. My Wi-Fi is actually down.
See, it's not Firebase. That wasn't invalidated.
Uh-huh.
You don't need Wi-Fi to run Android.
You do if you're gonna hit Firebase. Because that's where my airports live. On Firebase.
I'm like old enough to remember knee socks and how sad I was when my mom.
I think it's just you. I got.
But you're not that tall, so knee socks are kind of just normal socks.
No, like the 80s knee socks, you know. The ones
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying you're not that tall. How tall are you?
I'm not that tall.
Yeah.
5'8".
Yeah, so knee socks are just normal socks.
For me?
Yeah, for everybody else.
Or
Like my socks are knee socks for you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we're back. We're back
I had
online.
to move to like German, Wisconsin, where everyone's like 7'2". It's like, no.
There's a place in Wisconsin called German, Wisconsin. That's just
No,
lazy.
No, I was talking about that.
It's like most of our inhabitants here are from Germany, right?
Yeah.
They just came here and says, "This is German."
German.
We've got New Berlin, we've got Rhinelander. It's just like, holy smokes.
Dude.
Polka radio station on
All right,
Monday.
there we go. All right, so I have a left and a right, so I'll go left. I'll go left. I'll go left. We'll just keep going down left here until, okay, yeah, that's the end of my tree at that level. So now I can go to the right, right.
These are all the airports.
Yeah.
You should be going forever.
Well, we went so far down the left side. But now I can bounce back up, and I can still,
It's interesting. This is different land. What is it? I get to that there. Oh,
so there's right.
no.
Oh, look at that. There's not even a left to that first one. So I go right again.
No.
Oh, look at that. There's a hyphen. The airport of Kazakhstan. Very nice. you fly plane? Just zero.
Page, I like
He's got a bunch of zeros.
Totally foolproof.
that. DB, I gotta say, you got some data sanitation issues.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so if we go back, actually, it's funny. I got to go back a whole bunch of screens. So this is actually an interesting thing to show. The way that Android presents activities is as a stack. So the screen we're currently looking at is the guy that's currently at the top of the stack. When I hit the back button here, it's popping that off, destroying it, showing me the previous exact same kind of activity, but a different instance of that activity. Different instance, different instance, different instance. So here, I'm just going to run it again real quick. I want to just do a search on zeros on our big list and see how many zeros we have in there for our airport list. That's not what I want. I might not be able to get to. Here, let's do a 0. Oh my gosh, come on. You got this. That is weird on the left side of this tree. Oh, you know what? I bet. Yeah, see, part of the issue is that because it has the double quotes surrounding it, we talked earlier about lexicographic, so it's actually sorting them based on, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So you have the same issue. I didn't try real hard. Stack Overflow wouldn't tell me. I was trying to figure out how to like regex and grab what was in there. And I was like, oh, whatever.
I mean, we can pretty easily sanitize this pretty easily, I think, because so at the end of the day, this is the solution. So we have left and right buttons. They take us through our tree, blah, blah, blah. If we want to go through, we can remove these double quotes and then resave it. So we can kind of sanitize our data at the level of our,
To the database.
back to the database, yeah. So we'll do that here in airport list activity. All right, so right here is where I actually get a data snapshot. So this is where I create my airport class. Now what I want to do is, let me see something here. My airports. That's not going to work. I have my airports. Now my world airports, how are they? So just a big list, or is it a bunch of keys? So what I need to do is I need to reset the value at each of those endpoints for the key. This is us here, right? All right, so this is our world airports. Oh, very nice. Okay, so it is a number. So this is the key. Just want to prove that here real quick. We should get a whole bunch of like just numbers printed out there from the key on that screen. Just make sure that's the case. Okay. Yep. So we got the key. You got the stuff. All right. So what I'm going to do then. All right, we're going to do a couple of passes on this. See if we can clean it up. So I'm going to go into airport. I'm going to create a private string key. And then I'm going to have a setter for that key. You know what? We'll just keep them separate. It's not going to hurt anything. I'll just create a linked list of keys. Move on with life. That way we don't mess up our serializable object here. So right here. So no, that's not where I'm at. It's my list. This guy. All right, so I'm going to create another linked list. Actually, I could just do a local one here because I'm only using it for a second. So I'm going to say linked. It's almost like I don't know what it's almost like. It's like Android Studio is making me slow down. It's like the key. It's not the problem with the key. So we do a linked list of, we'll say string. Let's call this the keys is equal to a new linked list of strings. And then, so each time through here, I'm adding, forget about adding it to our tree for a second. In fact, we could just comment that out for a minute. We're not messing with the tree for now. Right now, we're trying to clean up our data to give us things that, I mean, all airport codes are three characters, right? Okay, so we're gonna first remove the double quotes. Make sure we're dealing with.
There's a bunch of those.
Yeah, but those aren't correct airport codes anymore, right?
Correct, yeah.
So then we're gonna limit it to three characters. Yep. All right, so I'm adding to my list of airports. I'm also going to add to keys.add ds.getKey. Okay, so I have parallel linked lists here. My linked list called keys, bucket 0 of that guy is the key associated with bucket 0 of the airport in the airports. That way I have his where he lives in the database, so I can set the value. Operating off of my database reference here, this ref. Okay? So when we get to right here, we have all of our data. We've collected all our keys. We've collected all our airports. Now we want to ask each airport to, let's say, I don't know, sanitize itself. So I'm going to go teach an airport to sanitize itself. Let's make it public for a second. All right, so we're going to start off by let's just get it working for airport codes first, and make sure we're doing the right stuff. So we want to remove any double quotes from airport codes, right? And then actually we probably could do that from everything, from names and countries. So right now we have a lot of double quotes stuff in there, don't we?
Yeah, pretty much everything.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this dot name is equal to this dot name dot what's it called? Well, rather than just, I'm just going to look it up. I'm just going to write my own thing real quick. Private string remove stuff. And this guy will take a fact, I'll just say remove quotes. Take a string s as a parameter. We're going to create a result, start that off as the empty string. I'm just going to go through s, and everything that's not a double quote, I will keep. So for int I is equal to 0, I is less than s dot length I plus plus if s dot char at I is not equal to the double quote result plus equals s dot char at I. And then we'll return result. Okay. So what we'll do here is we're going to say this dot name is equal to this dot remove quotes of this dot name. This dot country is equal to this dot remove quotes of this dot country. This dot airport code is equal to this dot remove quotes, this dot airport code. This dot city is equal to this dot remove quotes, this dot city. This dot region is equal to this dot remove quotes of this dot region. I have all of them. Name, country, region, city, airport code. Region, city, okay. So that should do that. Do I have a way of displaying a, yeah, so then let's just say this dot display. So before I write anything back to the database, possibly destroying stuff, we're going to go through and we're going to sanitize all of our airports, making sure it gives us what looks like cleaner data. So what I'm going to do is back on this screen, airport list activity. So this is as I'm getting the airport. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll say temp.display. So I'll go ahead and display it before sanitizing it. Then afterwards, I'm going to go through all of my actually, I guess I could just do it all right here. It'll prove that it's doing it right. Sanitize does the display. So I'll display it before sanitization, and then I'll sanitize it, which will display it again. So let's see if we are indeed cleaning stuff up here. And does display give us a, yeah, it gives us a couple of asterisky things. All right, so yeah, it looks like this is doing a pretty decent job. So here's the unsanitized, here's the sanitized. All right, looks pretty good. Then we need to check the length of the airport code. The length should be 3. So notice here the airport code used to look like that. Now it looks like this. We're only going to write ones that have a yeah, we're only going to write ones that have an airport code of 3. So we'll just ask if it has a legal airport code. Otherwise, we'll delete from that key. That should write it back cleaner. Okay, so we'll ask the question, public Boolean. Oh my gosh. Pal drop. Public Boolean is legal code. We will return this dot airport code dot length equal to 3. Okay. So now back here, we don't need to display it anymore, but we do need to still sanitize it. So we're going to sanitize it before we add it to our linked list. So we should have all the double quotes removed. And then after this, we're going to go through and decide what do we need to save back versus what do we need to remove. Actually, we can test it here real quick by doing... I do already have my A tree. Yeah. So let's go through and let's only add things to our A tree that are legal codes. That way, before we start messing with our database at all, we will have a binary tree filled up with only legal airport codes. So we'll say for airport A in the airports, if A dot is legal code, then we'll say a tree dot add A. So we're only adding legal code ones to our tree. Not changing the database at all yet. We're just kind of, massaging the stuff as it's coming in. Adding everything to our linked list sanitized, but only adding things to our tree that have legal airport codes. And then let's walk our tree and see if our tree looks more legit. If it does, then we can fix the database. Wait, so go to Morocco. So that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. All right. Juicy. Where that one? That's a good airport. All right, then we'll do, see if all our zeros are gone now and stuff. Yep. So. Yes. Airport to Kazakhstan. Well, why? Do I need to also just flag for yes?
It's actually an airport code.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yes is I don't know how to say this.
If you say Kazakhstan, I'm going to snap my laptop in half.
CSC518 or something like that. Yeah.
All lower. Why is it all low? Why are all these other ones all uppercase? But that was just lowercase, just cause.
Yeah. Oh no, there's another guess. I don't know if this is just junk code from my thing,
Why is
but
it lowercase though?
it's lowercase in our database too. If you go back to the top and filter it, you'll see.
Well, I know it's lowercase in database. That's how I got
Well,
here in
right,
lowercase.
Yeah, I know. It's
But aren't all the airport codes uppercase?
Yeah, it's the city is in IN. The state is
Kazakhstan.
AS and
Is
the,
it?
Yeah, it's in Iran. It's up in northwest Iran. That's pretty close to Kazakhstan.
You get there by rail. So do we want yes to be in there?
Yes.
Well, but it's all lowercase. Doesn't seem right.
It's wrong. We can tell Java to make those things upper. Yeah,
yeah, but then it's gonna have a conflict with Yasuj or whatever. Yeah.
Well, we do. Are both of them in our data?
Yeah.
So there's an uppercase yes in our
There's an
database,
uppercase yes in our database.
and then we have this random
And then
lowercase
there's a
yes.
lowercase yes in the database as well.
That And what does that one say as the airport for it?
The city is in. Is in IN.
The lowercase one?
Yeah, lowercase is in.
Okay.
In the state of AS.
Yes, as in.
All
I guess it's a sentence. Yes, as in. What's the rest of it?
right. So for right now, we'll leave yes in there. we'll leave yes in there for now. So now we've proven that this is legal code works for pretty much everything. So now let's go ahead and let's fix our database then. So we're going to say for int I is equal to 0. I is less than the airports dot count. There's the size dot size I plus plus. All right, so we're going to go through each of our airports dot get I. So I'll grab the airport. I also need to grab the key. And that's going to be keys dot get I. All right. And I think we still have access to res dot. Don't, but that's okay. I can go. Oh, it's ref dot child. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So we're going to ask the question: if A is legal code, then what we want to do is we want to overwrite the value at our database at the corresponding key with the now sanitized airport. So we'll say ref.child, and we'll pass it our key, dot set value to A. What's it complain about here? You know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. So I'll just overwrite the value at that key with the updated sanitized value of my object. If it's not a legal code, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with my L key. That's like the new inside joke. There's something wrong with my L key. All right, so, bruh. So now we're gonna say core dot child key dot remove value. That'll just get rid of it. Right? All right, let's go break our database. It's all great stories start. All right, we should see some changes. Should be good changes. Actually, I didn't see anything laid up. All right, but the idea here should be, so that says 8266 more. Let's just refresh the screen and see if there's less now. There's 0. World airports are gone. Well, we removed a bunch. All right. So now should be able to stop sanitizing. I should be able to add them to my tree up here. No longer need the keys. And I can just comment out that stuff. Because now our data should be sanitized in the database, assuming we just corrected everything. Let's see if that's true. All right, well, that looks a lot better there, right? Go to Maraca. JCY, what is JCY? It's my next trip, is the Juicy Airport.
Johnson City, Texas.
We gotta look at the break, we gotta look at what's the best steakhouse nearby. All right, so I think that's good there. But yes, should still be in there, right? Yes. Okay, so let's take a 11-minute break. We'll do one final hour. I gotta decide what we're gonna do during that final hour, but we'll do something awesome and difficult. All right, so, well, questions about any of the stuff we've done so far? Saw the implementation of the homework, no big deal. All right, so